Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Brightworks, where today I've got a fun little match for you that was pulled off of the live stream. For those of you that don't know, on Tuesdays and Saturdays, we do, by we, I mean the Brightworks community, host a fun little event. We do a live stream where we play with some of the settings and we play some funky games, to say the very least of which, and this is one such match. Now, there's a couple little settings that I'll get into here, explaining some of the new some of the changes that I like to enable whenever we're doing these events. One of which is increasing the energy count. That's a little bit of a minor thing. The other, which you might have already noticed, is enabling Legion. So today, our red team leader, yours truly, going to be playing as the Legion faction and representing the red team on the southern side here of what's it called again? For the center, I think. Also, I just realized, there we go. Off to a roaring start here. Already you can see that I'm doing a funky little strategy here, moving up the map and trying desperately to capture these metal extractors and pose some sort of a presence here on the southern side, using this little bit of a choke point to my advantage, hoping that I'll be able to push forward here. The blue team leader, God Official, playing as an Armada commander, going for airplay over here in the northern corner on the west, or on the eastern side rather, spawning in the northeastern side. Cage has already moved all the way very far forward here as well and is going to be playing as the yellow commander. Very nicely done here. Now, I do remember what happens during this match. I've sort of pre-spoiled it, I suppose, by playing it for myself, but it was just too much fun. I felt like I really had to share it with you guys. Some of you might also notice a little bit of a change up here to the hotbar. One of the lovely members of the Brightworks community in the Brightworks Discord channel, as well as working on it in the Beyond All Reason Discord channel, has posted a new update to the hotbar up on the top, showing exactly how the build power is being spent of each and every commander here. So as you can see, I've selected my commander, and you can see that it's got a grand total of 300 build power, and it is using a grand total of 300. It's plus 300 minus 300 means it's 0, which means that this is a perfectly efficient use of build power, right? I don't have too much build power, I don't have too little build power. This is the first match that I'm casting with this widget, so I'll have to keep my eyes on it to see how it changes. But there you go. You can see it incorporates labs as well, because this laboratory has 100 build power, and so now it's gone up to 400. And as this constructor finishes, we should see it go up to 480. And there it goes. So you can see it changes depending on how things are being built, and it sort of gives you a sense for how your build power is being spent. It also hints at whether you've got idle constructors or constructors that are not working properly, and you know, all that sort of things. Just another helpful tool. Anyways, all across the map here, for the middle, I believe is what this map is called. I always struggle to find the name. There it is. To Kill the Middle, that's what it's called. It's a free-for-all map, but we were playing it as an 8 versus 8. So that being said, going to be a exciting match to try and see how two teams capture this, as opposed to a whole bunch of individual players, right? Or maybe teams of 2 players. Speaking of free-for-alls, by the way, I do have a very spicy free-for-all match that'll be releasing. I have to go record that cast. I'm looking forward to taking a look at that game. It was submitted through the Brightworks Discord channel, so if you would like to submit a cast to get replayed, you can always go submit it down below. There's a link to the Discord channel there where you can go and check out and see if maybe you'd like to throw your hat in the ring. But that should be some good fun. Using my commander now to eat up a whole bunch of these crystals here, trying to fund this geothermal. This was my big plan. Go for the geothermal, and then after that, yep, that's basically as far as the plan went. I don't get an opportunity to play Legion all too often, so I was really just having some fun playing around with it, as well were some of my other friendly commanders here. Yeah, finishing up the geothermal pretty quick here, though. One of the other tweaks that I like to do is to double the efficiency of energy converters. So energy converters become twice as efficient, meaning that for the same amount of energy, they produce 2 metal, or, well, double the amount of metal anyways. It can be very, very useful. It can oftentimes be a extremely, extremely easy way to, oh, looks like I forgot to build my geothermal there. A little bit of a miscue. Already slacking on the geothermal. Wow, that's going down pretty quick. Yikes. Already lost a tremendous amount of resources doing that. Yeah, don't do that. Good job, Brightworks. But yeah, I like to turn that on. It makes these matches get really spicy, especially when teams start to get into those fusion reactors and advanced fusion reactors. The economies start to spiral. Keeps these games nice and neat and in and out in under an hour or so. A couple of Hades tanks making their way across. I've started to play enough Cortex that I'm remembering some of the names, which is always quite nice. Something I always have struggled with, trying to keep the names straight, right? Cage pretty far forward here. Neuralessis trying desperately to hold on to this front line with the help of Dillonger, both of the green players, ironically, playing into the middle of the map here. Trying desperately to keep a hold of this area. cage, not going to allow that light laser turret to come up in time, and we do have one of those Gatling tanks. Excuse me, Gatling tanks up and on the field here. Getting ready to fire away at poor Cage. Just barely out of range here. There we go. Gonna start firing at that command. Beautiful. That's what Legion's all about, by the way, for anybody who hasn't played Legion. It's a faction that is still a work in progress and is being developed by the by the community. And you can enable it by going into your advanced options and into the extras tab, and you're able to toggle on the Legion faction. You can see this is their new little Mark 1 unit, the Gundam, also known as the Goblin. They haven't changed its little unit design over here, which is a bit of a shame. They need to capture a new photo of this thing because it is just downright adorable. Look at that little critter. Well, that one's pretty badly scuffed up, those two. I love it. That is that is quickly becoming the Legion faction sort of defining motif. They're sort of becoming this Gundam-esque type of faction here. You can see this little weird little stomper robot with a massive artillery piece. It's kind of got two heads on it. Just beautiful. Now, as far as strategy goes with Legion, their bots are very thin, very paper thin, but also very cheap. They pack a punch, but again, they're pretty easy to take down. As far as raiding units, they have the Centaur, which is a quad-barreled running unit. It looks like a Hound, but it's much quicker. It's meant to do raids, and it puts out a tremendous amount of damage in one big burst. Then it goes on cooldown for just a little bit. They also have this little guy over here, the Lobber. Funk, funk, funk. It's the noise that I imagine they make. I love it. I love the Legion faction. I really think they're starting to fall into their own here. For a while, they were desperately they were desperately limited by the implementations that they had been given as far as the skins that they had borrowed from the Legion faction, from the Armada faction, all that sort of stuff. But I feel like they're starting to get their own designs. They're starting to get their own motifs, and I really do feel like they're starting to become a faction in and of themselves. Straight up Cortex battle up on the top here is bad, is going up against Sniped 222. A bunch of tanks rolling out against a bunch of those Rocketeers, but there are some light laser towers for support. There's going to be more than enough to deter those tanks from pushing any further here. One of them actually going down, and the other one retreating, tail between legs, trying to figure out where it all went wrong. Resbots out here, very nicely done, eating up all of the wreckage over here on this field. Looks like there was a little bit of a commander trade. Didn't see who managed to reclaim the medal here, but I'm going to guess that with these Resbots eating up these things, it's going to be a fairly even fight, at least for the time being. We now have a artillery piece, the Napalm Artillery, which is the is the Legion artillery unit, capable of firing these little spledgems of napalm out onto the field. It's a bit of a weird unit, right? It fires this napalm out and then it kind of lingers on the field, meaning it doesn't really do any damage up front. It does all of its damage over time, making it a perfect siege unit, but making a terrible assault unit. It can fire all it wants at the enemy, but it won't do any damage unless the enemy stands on top here. You can see now I've got a couple of those Centaurs mixed in. You can see just how quick those bad boys are. They do a tremendous amount of damage, but also at a very short range. So you have to get them into the nooks and crannies of the opponent's base here. Well, yeah, really failing on the micro here. Moving these in and out of the laser turrets when really they should be sent on little raiding parties. There is opportunities here and there to send these around, and I think that's probably where these would be better spent, is sending the lighter units across. Desperately trying to get a little bit more economy up and running, so you can see me going for quite a few of these advanced solar panels here. Also upgrading to the overcharged metal extractor. This is a Legion specific thing. The overcharged metal extractor demands 30 energy per second, but does pump out 1.5x as much metal as a regular metal extractor. It's a bit of a weird curve that the Legion faction goes up, over, and around, where they start out with metal extractors that are less efficient than normal metal extractors, or at the very least they extract less metal than normal metal extractors. However, over time they get metal extractors that extract more, and then eventually you go to T2 and they extract the same as regular. Medium tanks absolutely blowing apart all of these little Gundams here. The goblins, the Gerblin goblins. There are a couple of skirmishers up on here. The Karkinos, the sort of brawler bot. It's got a little shield on it that has a riot cannon inside of it. It also got a heat ray mounted up on high. Oh, that's cool. It has a little animation for taking cover behind the shield. I never noticed that before. Oh, that's just adorable. Huh. Learn something new every day, huh? Now, one of the questions that I get asked a lot is if you're able to join these, if you're still a noob, And I would say, absolutely, of course, you're more than welcome to join in on these events. Again, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 12 PDT is when I'll let you do the conversion so that I don't confuse anybody. But 12 PDT, Tuesdays and Thursdays. As of recording this, that'll be tomorrow. Anybody and everybody is more than welcome to join in on these lobbies. The ranked setting is turned off, so fear not if you're worried about losing OS while playing with some funky settings. Yeah, no worries about that. This is all just for fun, and it's why we get to, well, have a whole bunch of fun exploring what Bar actually has to offer. Typically, we try to avoid Supreme Isthmus as well, so if maybe you're a little bit tired of that map, this might be more than enough for you to, or more of a refresher for you to go explore. Snipe 222, living up to the name here, and sniping the commander of his opposition is bad. He's losing the front line rapidly here, and with 1,250 metal directly down the drain right now, it's going to be quite difficult for Isbad to hold on. He starts up a couple of beamer turrets, and that's quite nice. Those beamer turrets do outrange the Rocketeers here, so at the very least, it's an answer. It's a little bit of a sour band-aid on a rough patch, and you can see indeed going up to that T2 transition, but with no metal in the bank right now, this T2 transition is going to take a while, and essentially Isbad is relying on the good graces of his opponent sniped 222 here to, yeah, not push in and do a tremendous amount of damage. Mib doing a great job of holding the front line with some of these railgun trucks. They're a very early artillery source for the Legion faction. They do put out a tremendous amount of damage. They also stall units. You can see when they fire, they slow them down just a little bit. Very powerful, of course, for shutting down some of those very aggressive pushes. However, they can be easily overwhelmed by a spam of units. As you can see, they have quite a long recharge, right? So sending in ticks, sending in grunts, sending in pawns, all of that going to be pretty good here. Isbad calling for help quite nicely. It's going to be up to Mib, I do believe, in order to try and rally the forces here. Railgun trucks trying desperately to fire at a lot of these well, Rocketeers over here. They need vision. They also have to be a stable platform. Can't fire if they're moving. Not effectively, anyways. Massive push over on this side right here. Looks like Neuralessis got a little too greedy. Didn't pump out enough units, and now a bunch of thugs are walking right into the base. Can they snipe the laboratory is the question. Do we have a target? We do have a target fire ordered. There's a Banisher firing away here for Dillonger, and indeed, it looks like with the help of that T2, the T1 lab will be saved. Oh, it's close call though. 12% left on that lab. Just in time for Neuralessis to save the day here. That Banisher putting in a tremendous amount of work. T2 Cortex, some to behold. Ooh. See those combat Karkinos firing away here. Eventually, after they take enough damage, they lose their shield. So they're quite an odd unit. They're very good against, they have a huge resistance to damage in the early game, and then into the late game they can become a little bit, or well, after they lose their shield anyway, they can become very, well, less effective. Here's the Helios, the skirmisher tank here for the Legion faction. You can see it firing away with its little laser cannon, getting completely tripped up by the wreckages here. That's quite a bummer. But doing a decent job against these medium tanks, I would say. Nice construction turret over here. Repairing up a lot of these tanks, making it very inconvenient to fight this. Hard to call these battles between Cortex and Legion. Sometimes they look so similar that it's hard to say, and other times it's just hard to tell what units are and aren't effective here. I'll tell you this much, this tank right here is being quite a pain. Very difficult to deal with. None of my units can actually shoot it down on this little slope for some reason. Those Gauss projectiles are able to handily push forward and deal a tremendous amount of damage. Destructor here way too far forward. Eventually gets microed back right there. Hades were my option of choice here, trying to just overwhelm this tank force as best I can. I was pumping out a whole bunch of them, and now you can see I've got a whole surround. Tons of them up north, tons of them wrapping around from behind. Gonna be pulling the reinforcements as well as making a couple of these Gatling tanks. Hades are quite good. They do a little burst of damage, but in big numbers they can burst down medium tanks quite nicely here. As you can see, all of these get surrounded and blasted apart relatively quickly. Nicely done to the Hades. It's a whole different faction, right? So it's constantly trying to figure out, I'm constantly trying to figure out what units counter what units. It seems like, at least in this game, the Hades seems to counter pretty decently the medium tanks, as long as you have them in sufficient enough number. Gatling tanks are the medium tank of choice here for the Legion faction. Here's a quick overview of exactly what units they have. The Armored Assault tank, the Skirmisher tank, and the Napalm artillery. Gatling tanks very efficient in close range quarters because they don't miss any of their shots. That's pretty much their pitfall when they're in long-range combat, is the fact that they don't do, well, they're not very accurate. They kind of fire a whole lot of bullets and just hope that some of them hit. But you can see, similar to the Beamer, they sort of whittle units down slowly over time, but eventually cutting them to cinders here. Huge medium tank push through the south here. Gatling tanks luckily in a decent concave, so going to be able to hold off at least a little bit of these push right here. Loads of medium tanks now swarming through the base. 0%, there we go. Yeah, eating up these tanks. Trying to, at the very least, eat up those tanks. Couple of runaways over here do manage to slip through the cracks. Penetrate into the back line. Front line over on this side, falling to the T2. This Tiger is starting to be a real pain. Very sturdy. Extremely difficult to deal with those, especially the T1. There are Hounds out on the field, but again, those Hounds are T2 bots going up against T2 vehicles, so it is going to be mostly in the favor of the T2 vehicles when it comes to big, flat, open terrains where the vehicles can really shine. Spy tank out here to allow these Mauser to fire at full range. Very nicely done. Dangerously close here, though. Yep, gotta micro those back constantly. It's a very APM-intensive unit, those spy tanks. Spy bots as well. But invaluable here. You can see those Mauser now firing away from a very large, very far out distance, effectively shutting down a whole bunch of these Hounds here that are trying to do the same job, but just not as effectively because they don't have that line of sight bonus, or that accuracy that the line of sight gives, rather. Hound set on a repeat command over here, it looks like. Yeah, set on a little bit of a repeat command to move back and forth, but still going to fall eventually to the forces of the Mauser. Man, those Mauser really tear things through. I've also been alarmed that or alerted that the Quaker has received a change. The Cortex artillery. Apparently it's a much heavier unit now, which is pretty cool. Yeah, Dotsor cleaning up the mess that is the corpse of my many units that died over here, as well as the tanks. I had a couple of res bots that I was desperately trying to convince to eat everything up over here, trying to recover from a terrible situation. I did go eventually into a T2 bot lab here, and trying to figure out what the right option is to counter a lot of these T2 units. I don't have the answer, frankly speaking. I was going for a spy bot here, you can see, but with that geothermal going down and all my advanced solars going down as well, that was basically all of the power production, which is really quite sad. Yeah, you can see 39 energy to my name. No way that spy bot's going to be out in time. It's going to be up to my teammates basically to save the day here. And these medium tanks are quite good against the Hounds just because of the fact that when the Hounds don't have any sort of vision support, no radar or anything like that, they are effectively the same range actually, which is quite surprising. And these tanks actually manage to engage decently against the Hounds. Not trading very efficiently, but at the very least trading, which is something, I suppose. Commander also getting engaged in this fight. Commanders really, especially the Legion commanders, really start to fall off when you get into that T2 stage, just because of the fact that they don't have a D gun, right? So you can't shut down any of those, especially heavy hitters, with the commander's D gun, more or less left to the whims of how powerful the Gatling cannon gets. Which once you start getting up there into those very heavy units of the tanks, and the other heavy units as well, that commander Gatling gun certainly starts to fall off here. I was certainly on the back foot. This was, I mean, in no small manner, this was a terrible, terrible situation. My lab has gone down, my units are in shambles, my forces are in disarray, and most of all, I think I have run pretty much out of drink. A fate I would not wish upon even my worst enemies. Spider bots are also out here for the Legion faction. I love that people are starting to play Legion more and more. It used to be a very, people would raise their eyebrows if you decided to play the Legion faction because it was not seen as very good. Frankly speaking, I think the Legion faction is very good. Overtuned, one might even say. However, unfamiliar are most people with the Legion faction, so I think these streams definitely help people out. Everybody gets a little more familiar. These are Belchers. They fire a little napalm barrage, but in a much more consistent pattern. Much more often, they fire a little napalm barrage. So the drone carriers getting to work here, though. Now there's a different type of drone carrier, a rolling drone carrier that's much more based off of the experimental T2 Navy ships that have yet to be fully implemented. There's some of those Quakers. Well, I want to see that fire. Apparently they changed the Quaker so it has a much higher spike of damage, but it fires much, much slower. And it does indeed look like that. The AoE on that looks quite massive. Kind of a cool change for the Quaker. It basically wasn't any different from the Mauser. It was just slightly worse. And now it seems like they've at the very least got their own spin on the long-range artillery game. Quite nice to see. A tremendous thank you to NCAP Catrap, who managed to save my behind quarters here by moving some significant units, some significant firepower into my place, and managing to shut down this push right here, using a whole bunch of those rail spiders as well as some of those rocket bots and Kinos and all other manner of T1 and T2 bots here. Mauser tearing apart this frontline unitry. Down goes some of those rail spiders as well. The rail spiders, I'm not sold on them. Yeah, they're kind of a cool unit, a cool siege unit. They fire very slowly and they do a tremendous upfront amount of damage. They're sort of in between a sharpshooter and a rocketeer, I would say. They kind of fall within that realm. It's a good realm. It's a powerful realm, but it is a tricky one, certainly. I'm still recovering. Somebody had lent me a geothermal at some point, and also some wind turbines all over the place. There they are, back over there. Gotta love the teamwork, right? Teamwork makes the dream work. One of those things that just happens to come out a lot of the time in these Brightwork streams, or some cheeky new strategies that are developed, because teamwork is much easier to do when you're in a constant state of communication, right? Mid with a tremendous force up north here. I'm surprised he's not being a little bit more aggressive. I suppose these light anti-air turrets are enough to deal with those drone carriers. However, the railgun trucks, as well as the Quaker artillery, seem like they'd be more than enough force to deal with everything here as well. Oh, these are more Quakers. I thought those were Scorpion tanks. Scorpions are one of the Legion units that they can build out of the vehicle factory. It's essentially a poison arrow with 2 heat cannons strapped on top of it. It's a very, very convincing piece of equipment. Whole bunch of aggression over on this side as well. The middle, handily captured by my team here. Nicely done to claim these very valuable metal extractors right here. Although we do have one missing for MVP. But overall, a very solid hold right here, and you can see indeed our cage has gone for a full-blown T2 economy right in the middle of the map right here, going into those advanced bots as well as those advanced energy converters. These are very efficient, by the way. Let me see if I can find some in progress. There we are. You can see this one. Well, it's not producing at full capacity, but it is shooting up over the 10 mark. That's because they produce basically double resources in this game mode. Finishing up my own fusion reactor. I spy a lot of metal that I could use, Brightworks. Juicy, juicy T1 metal. Not as juicy, however, as all these corpses that are lying around over here. There's, I mean, nearly 1,500 metal just lying in ruin over here on the floor. There's a tank moving forward over here as well. Luckily, T2 bot production is up and running. Ooh, lost the res bot. Tried to micro that back. Failed to micro that back. Story of my life. Strider now out to try and burst down this medium tank here. Try being the key word. That's the problem with a lot of the Legion stuff. There's no spikes of damage. It's basically entirely just consistent damage output over a long time. So you see things like Striders where they're firing their little Gatling guns over a consistent amount of time. And you see things like the, that was a funky little battle right there. Both swarming around each other. And you can see that they rely on firing for a good long while before getting any kind of value out. Yeah, Real Spiders doing their good work here. Blasting through a lot of these hounds. Sort of filling the same niche, although, kind of, but not really. They also take forever to whip that massive Skazel around here, so they can have a really hard time retreating. A grunt spam has been established, though. Moth named Joe deciding to flush out a whole bunch of flood out, maybe a better word. A whole bunch of those grunts here. Fat Boy's on the front line. Very sturdy unit. Very capable of taking a beating here, but a beating it will receive indeed as these Rail Spiders do lay into it. You can see each one of these does contribute a pretty significant firepower. These Fat Boys will not be long for this world. And down goes the second one here. Blasted to smithereens. Medium tanks trying to get aggressive over here. Oh, it's self-destructing. Okay. Get an opportunity. Yeah, I guess it'll self-destruct. All right, nice. It's the little victories that count. And you can see eating up all this wreckage to desperately try and claw myself back into the game. This is one of those problems where you start to you get knocked out of the game, and it is very, very tiring. I talked about this on the stream. Well, nice little kill over here, by the way. Incurring force of hounds over here for MVP has collapsed a commander over on this side, as well as the main base. It does look like for Ragnarok. Meanwhile, Big Nuke collides over on our side of the map, and MVP feels the sweet, sweet sting of nuclear annihilation. Just like that. Oh, there's a resbot here. Love to see these resbots starting to eat up all this wreckage right there. 11,000 metal and wreckage. Most of that in the commander and the fusion reactor. Good amount in the citadel as well, though. But yeah, start eating up all this juicy, juicy metal, and that's going to be a fine, fine amount to pay back for the, well, the now non-existent base over there. That being said, MVP does have a nice little decentralized base over on this side, pumping out a whole bunch of units as well. Wouldn't mind seeing him relocate, just start getting into T2, eat all this up, and switch it into T2. He does already have the T2 lab. He's going to be able to pay for that quite easily here with the reclaim from this line right there. Nicely done on that front. Getting back into these games is very tricky. This is such a cool unit. So I'm gonna take a second to fanboy over this unit because I discovered this unit and figured out how it worked, and I am now such a fan. It's called the Infestor, right? And so what it does is it has a little heat ray gun on its head. It can fire a little laser beam. But what it also can do is build a copy of itself. So the Infestor can build itself. Now what does that mean? Well, it means when you build a big array of Infestors, they can also help build more Infestors. So indeed, when you construct a single Infestor, you can send it somewhere, have it, oh yeah, nuclear bomber in my backline. Had to helplessly watch as these fighters just streamed on past. That was tragic. Watching this nuclear bomber tear apart my base for the second time this game. Ah, what a bummer. There go the fighters. Finally shooting down that nuclear bomber. I was more than a little pissed about that, not gonna lie. Infestor can build itself, and the new Infestors can help build more Infestors. So it's such a unique idea, right? Because if you can manage to get one of these into the enemy's backline, you can quickly throw up 100 Infestors that'll help build more Infestors, constantly pumping out more and more of them. And as an added bonus, if any one of them survive, another big nuke connection over here, by the way. Sorry, I'm fanboying about this new Legion unit right here. 2 of our backline-ish players going down right now, as yeah, bases have been well destroyed. Pretty brutal. And the problem is, if one of these Infestors survives, 100 more Infestors can replace it, right? And then you only have to save one of them, and then 100 more can replace it. It's such a brutal unit, because as soon as you produce one, you've effectively produced an infinite amount of them, which is just insane. This is quite nice. Cage sharing this geothermal to help me get my advanced geothermal up and running here. I had tons and tons of metal with no energy production whatsoever over on this side. Absolutely a terrible position to be in here, but you can see trying to make the very best of it by getting an advanced geothermal up so that at the very least I could try and contribute in this game a little bit more. Dotsor has been completely unpunished by me because, frankly speaking, I've had no base, and yet I must scream. Hounds have now torn apart this area over here, but those EMP bombers making a decent showing here, shutting down a whole lot of those hounds. We do have the EMP rework enabled, which is why even after these are un-EMP, they are still moving tremendously slow and firing hardly ever. EMP rework makes these EMP bombers extremely powerful. Very, very powerful unit now, as they, yeah, they pretty much shut off a unit completely, not even after it's been re-enabled. It still takes forever for that unit to come back online. An excellent little hound push there, but unfortunately just not enough follow-up in order to clean that up. Sharpshooters getting caught way out of position here. Whoa. Yeah, those sharpshooters were way too far forward, getting caught by Cage Coac, pushing out a whole bunch of fiends as well as grunts, swarming through and eventually shutting down the sharpshooters, which is being mass fabricated and sent through by Ragnarok. Sumo's also pushing forward. That's quite nice. Sumo's a little more resistant to the EMP effects, although only ever so slightly. Still, though, going to be able to cause quite a bit of a problem over here for the green players, at the very least. Both of the green players, one of which has been completely annihilated, the dark green player, which is now starting to be annihilated once more. And here we go. So you can see, right, one Infestor starts the production. Another one starts to assist it. You can see all of these are constructing here right now. Once this one is finished, it also aids in the construction. It just aids the, it assists the initial infestor, right? So suddenly these guys are all producing units, and you can see in just a matter of moments, they're now producing an infestor every 5 seconds, every 4 seconds, every 3 seconds. It just keeps going. What an awesome unit idea. I really, really like it. I think it's so cool. Just the way that these can contribute towards making an infestation of units on the other side of the map. I just think there's something super special about that. You can see the trauma starting up here. I was already pretty traumatized about those bombers coming across onto my map. I was pretty unhappy about that. Trying to start up some anti-air defenses at the very least to try and help with that. Whether it'd be successful or not, I had yet to know. This is nicely done here by the purple player, realizing that this lane was pretty weak and sending reinforcements down to deal with it. Now this spam of units is encountering welders, which are pretty much the perfect unit to counter the Fiend Grunt spam, as well as the ticks here. Basically the perfect unit composition in order to shut this down, and you can see making huge steps at pushing this forward. Didn't manage to reclaim this fusion reactor, by the way. What a bummer. Still a nice little pick over here as the build power is blown to smithereens by a renegade unit that slipped through here for Cage, going to be shutting off Ragnarok's main production facilities. Meanwhile, a whole bunch of lightning tanks have finally come back up and online here and are going to, or rather a whole bunch of build power has come up and online and is going to start pumping out a whole load of those lightning tanks here. This is what I was talking about. You can see the build power here. This is what's unused, I do believe, and then this is I think this is what could be used if the resources were there, and then this is what's actually being used. The light green is what's actually being used. The dark green is what could be used, and the black is what is unused. I think that's how that's meant to be read. Hopefully there will be someone in the comment section that can correct me, because even as I'm thinking about it, I feel like it might not be correct. Anyways, this is a fun little attempt, trying to move some of these spider bots around here, trying to sneak them on through, sneak a couple of infestors through, make some sort of a cheeky play. See them firing their little heat ray cannon. I figured what the ideal situation would be is these little robots appear in the enemy base, right, and then I have one of them go back here and just camp out back here and start pumping out units, and then the others can go ravage bases or whatever they need to do. Catapults now out for the southern side. There's T3 Cortex heavy artillery firing away and devastating any of the static defense. The rocket bots they fire can't be stopped by shield or wall. They go right on through. And yeah, makes them a pretty devastating siege unit. Especially lethal against static defense. Not to be underestimated though, if they do find a big clump of units, they can definitely tear them a new one. Nice catch down here. Managed to find and shut down some of these infestors over here. I wonder if Dottor was wondering what the hell these were, thinking they were termites, and then trying to figure out what on earth those actual units were. Big old lightning tank push over here. There's an incinerator out as well. Barely mobile, heavy heat ray. It fires a it's almost like an inferno cannon, or what it's called, inferno towers. Any Clash Royale enjoyers or Clash of Clans enjoyers, it's basically what this thing is. You can see it blasting apart its own units with reckless abandon. This thing needs to be on the front line, and it also desperately needs to be emplaced. It seems like if it isn't emplaced in a single spot, it can cause quite a bit of friendly fire damage. Big old nuclear connection. Didn't really manage to land on all too much important over here. The push kind of stopped, and I think that nuke was predicting that it would keep on going. Still, though, a whole bunch of these medium, or heavy tanks, rather, starting to push through here. Yeah, I mean, the shotgunner's not great against them, it seems. They do decently, but still struggling. Legion has a problem with just being completely completely inefficient as far as compositions go. A lot of their compositions end up stepping on each other's toes and causing a whole lot of problems. At least I find that the case. It's a lot of Razorbacks on the northern side. Sharpshooters also pushing through here, melting away a lot of that static defense. There's a single spy bot here, but it's all it takes in order for these sharpshooters to become much more lethally effective. And you can see them blasting apart basically everything that's produced over here. Not that it's going to matter though, as these Razorbacks start to step forward and take center stage on this show. There's just not enough units over here in order to deal with all this. We need a sharpshooter spam of our own in order to shut down that many Razorbacks, and unfortunately, it's just not the case. Neither of these commanders a Armada commander, and well, actually, it looks like Isbad was at one point an Armada commander. At the very least, had an Armada constructor. Not sure if that means he was an Armada commander, but definitely had an Armada constructor. But still, yeah, with not but a fusion reactor to the name. Not much standing in the way here of these Razorbacks that are going to sweep through the northern side. This is where those Legion commanders start to really take a dive, right? Once you get into the T3, there's not much the Legion commander can really do against these T3 units. Starts firing, and he does a decent amount of damage over time here, but you can see it just can't do what the D-gun does. Immediately disintegrate those units into rubble. So unfortunately, Mib is a little bit powerless here as the Razorbacks start to tear through this base. No T3 was had, but for the blue player, indeed, the base of our orange hero will go down. Eventually, the commander, I do believe, is going to be able to tear down this Razorback, but it's going to be after a long, hard-fought battle. Yeah, no cloak on Legion commanders either, so it can't really escape this this push here. I think Legion commanders definitely need a little bit of buff in the late game. It's tricky, right? Because if you buff them too much, then you end up in a situation where the commander itself becomes the most powerful unit in the game, right? And you have Legion commanders that just swamp through the base, are effectively a free T3 unit. But on the other hand, wow, look at that anti-air firing, by the way. Still, those T2 bombers just too sturdy, and they do manage to make it through, popping the main production center of Cage Collect in the middle of the map here. That is just downright brutal. All that build power right down the drain here for our yellow commander. Going to try and rebuild here, but there's already Razorbacks on the back of this, going to shut down a whole lot of that here. There is some build power over here to assist, and that's very nice. There's also, excuse me, a couple of bulwarks built in the defensive line here, but most of them are on the front, and only one in the back here to try and blast away at some of these Razorbacks that are now in the back line. Takes one of them down, but there's still another one to back it up. Moth named Joe does have a D-gun under his belt, so will at the very least be able to blast apart some of these Razorbacks here. They're finally cloaks here, but the advanced geothermal will pop, sending a massive ricocheting explosion through the red bases. At the same time, massive push from the red player, the maroon player that is, on the southern side, wiping away multiple bases over here, trying to shoot down some of those EMP bombers, desperately failing. We did not have a dedicated air player. That was our, well, I guess we did. It was, Moth named Joe was our air player, but he also had a frontline presence here. So it was a little bit of a mixed bag. And you can see, with this much air power, there was nothing we could do against these EMP bombers here. Paralyzing our forces beyond all reason. The incinerator can be paralyzed. Almost looks too big to be paralyzable. Somebody can let me know down below. My handy res bots continuing to feed me metal. And you can see I had just gotten T3 production up just in time for God Official to decide my fate had been fought. In come the bombers. Bombers do spot my T3 facility, and I guess they didn't like that too much, deciding to bomb me into oblivion, not for the second, but the third time, losing my entire base, as well as the T3 production. I was pretty audibly upset at this point. There was not much happiness in my voice on the stream here by the third time that I had been bombed into oblivion. Not happy about it whatsoever here. Trying to shut down my advanced geothermal. Luckily, it lived here. The only saving grace in this otherwise tragic battle. At the very least, my team had managed to very quickly burst through this base down south here, shutting down the majority of it. The incinerator also waddling its way forward, melting through the armor of whatever it can. It's quite a bizarre unit. It doesn't really do as much damage as it looks like, right? It looks like quite a menacing beam of energy, pure energy, just heat energy sent out there, but kind of just, I don't know. Doesn't feel like it does as much as it really seems like it should. What's the cost of one of those bad boys? 2.3 thousand. It's a little more expensive than a Czar, I would say. I think that's accurate, right? Southern side has almost completely crumbled here for the blue team. Northern side has completely crumbled for our team. There is effectively no units, no bases, no anything up here on the northern side. Economy-wise, basically all of it is right up here. You can see God Official pulling in tons and tons of metal with those energy converters. Remember, those are twice as efficient energy converters over here. Bunch of ticks managed to get over here. Luckily, the EMP bomber is able to shut this down. Oh, yeah. The blizzards here are getting dangerously close to friendly fire bombing those little rascals. But eventually, this line down south here did get completely devastated. My single Praetorian. I wish I had saved an infestor. With but a single infestor, you could rebuild from the ashes here. I had a nice little army as well of Striders that I was trying to get some work done with. Figured I might as well go out in a blaze of glory. A whole bunch of shotgunners trying to move forward here. They do take down the T3 lab. That's unfortunate. Another bulwark about to come online here, though. Quite nice for shutting down that shotgunner army moving through here. Like a pulsar, but a little bit more diversified. Massive bombing run headed up north, though. These are blizzards. Those are T2, and they have tons and tons of health. Very difficult to stop here. Moth named Joe doesn't really have any units queued up. Doesn't really have any. Well, air forces left. Pretty much all that's left is a whole bunch of eco, and no way to convert that eco into metal. Here come the bombers, ready to ruin the pink player's day. Nice pull on those bombers, by the way. Pulling, well, some of them away, trying to save their lives here and use them in a different target, as it were. Manticore trying to shoot these down. There are a couple of Manticore over here. Quite nice. Oh, EMP bomb on that advanced geothermal, though. Does pop GDF as well. Killing 2 bases for the price of 1 bombing run. Quite nice there for the blue player. Continuing to ravage the economies over here. As you can see, things are starting to become a bit of a troublesome way for the red team. Desperately trying to hold on here. I can say with certainty, we really thought we had a chance here. Looking at the economies, I'm not so sure it was as close as I really thought it was. But yeah, certainly in game, this this definitely felt a whole lot closer. My lone Praetorian here trying to escort the behemoth forward. Gunship's also up here. Most of this is resistant to EMP at the very least, so not going to have too much trouble with it. Demons trying to march forward and burn down whatever they can. My mind is not yet made up about the demon. I'm not quite sure if it's good or not. Priority Q should be on the, yeah, should be on the fusion right there. Cage trying to point that out to me. There we go. Eventually they get a target. Focus firing down the advanced geothermal, obviously, to pop all of this base, try and get it out of the way. Very nice. Probably the right decision here is to move back and let the behemoth soak the majority of the damage. There's also a Juggernaut which can move forward. Didn't even see that bad boy, but yeah, send the Juggernaut forward, send the behemoth forward. Surely that's enough firepower to crack through these defenses here. There's a whole lot of spam and a whole lot of air forces, but basically no Juggernaut or behemoth killers, right? No T3 to speak of, nothing like that. Eventually, God Official does get his T3 lab up and running. He's going to start pumping out these T3 units, and you can see with multiple T2 air labs here, vastly the air superiority does go to the blue player. Behemoth, though, ravaging a lot of these T2 forces. It's like a wannabe D-gun. It's close to a D-gun. It's not quite a D-gun, but it's close to a D-gun. The humble Praetorian. Trying desperately. Oh, 4, 3, 2, 1, no! I lose the Praetorian here and doesn't manage to pop that advanced geothermal. Quite a bummer. It sure seemed like it almost was able to. Juggernaut keeps moving forward. At this point, I had realized there's actually an opportunity to resurrect a whole lot of stuff down here. There's a whole bunch of different stuff. Anti-nukes, Karganeths, demons, razorbacks, all sorts of things were left lying in ruin over here, so I figured I would just make that my life's work, my mission. Trying to resurrect as much as I could. Also, rebuilding T2. Finally found the courage to step back into this game. I was so petered out I didn't really want to do it, but I figured if anybody, I might as well try my very best at the very least. Nuclear bombers, rather, trying to burst down this behemoth. Gotta be careful with those nuclear bombers. Sometimes they can end up blowing themselves out of the sky. Yeah, the AoE, they're not immune to. Oftentimes they will do damage to themselves. Behemoth getting real low. Behemoths can also fire up into the air, which is quite funny. Let's see this behemoth firing away at these nuclear bombers. Juggernaut also moving forward here. Thor is available now for sniped 222, who has decided to go and finish off the center of the map here. It's where all the remaining eco was for, well, basically the majority of the eco for our team. Northern side finally pushing forward. There's a whole bunch of these constructors over here, the butlers, that I guess are going to run around and try and build a bunch of metal extractors. That'd be quite nice. Send out a big squad of those to try and build metal extractors all over the place. Not a bad idea. Juggernaut goes down, as well as the Behemoth. Thor's pretty powerful. Praetorian also stepping forward here. These keep moving, they're going to get dangerously close here to snipe 222's base. Very danger close. Big nuke takes out the center of Cage Clad's base here. Praetorian's apparently very resistant to EMP, which is good enough. Love to see some splitties here. Try and peel these units apart from each other, at the very least, saving some of them from the wrath of the advanced fusion reactor exploding. But there it goes, taking out Snipe 222's base, leaving only a single player left in the game here for the blue team. Only a single economy left here. Moth named Joe, the only commander left. There's a single D gun. We have, oh no, we have two commanders left, my bad. Commander goes down trying to D-gun that apart. Oh, that's brutal. See, I gave him a fusion reactor to try and keep that commander up and running. This is my desperate attempt to try and save our team here. You can see I start up a transport immediately. Trying desperately to get a transport up and carry this commander away. GDF 1451, a Legion commander, so has no way of cloaking itself, has no way of de-gunning down these tanks. And basically, they were well, this is a losing fight here. Hoping that we could squeeze out a victory, so I airlifted this commander all the way to my side of the base here. And you can see I've put together a little bit of a zone for myself, a little bit of a fortification. Trying to rebuild from the ashes, as it were. Encroaching forces over here. Already T3 is out, though, for God Official, who's now pumping out T3 units in mass, as well as a whole bunch of those nuclear bombers. Pretty good, those nuclear bombers are. Manticores in mass, though, going to be pretty good for shooting them down. And indeed, the air forces are starting to melt here for the blue player. Oh, GDF 1451 flying across the map. Butlers continuing to, continuing to claim all these metal extractors over here. Quite nice. Very, very good to see. Important that you reclaim your enemy's constructors, because you never know how valuable those are going to be later on. Metal extractors, rather. See the res bots on a mass resurrection command, and now you can see, got a couple of these infestors here, and I started them to work immediately, working on a big old infestor pile. I had tons and tons of metal in my bank, but no way to spend it, and I figured, you know what, how about a unit that can build itself? And indeed, the infestor was born. T2 lab is available here. See, I started up a T2 constructor, trying to get into this game as much as possible once more. A desperation attempt, if nothing else. The infestor, or the incinerator do against T3. Hey, you know, it does kind of melt down those Razorbacks there. Oh, until it's bombed into oblivion. Nice. Nuclear bombers, man, they're a treat, aren't they? This was my failsafe here as well. But my energy is gone. Not sure exactly what happened. No energy in the bank, though. Which means that, yeah, no unit production is going to be coming online. No resurrection either. All of it basically coming from overflow from teammates, more or less. Oh, it was the wind turbines over here. There's a bunch of wind turbines that had been gifted to me by teammates, and I think those had finally been destroyed somewhere around here. cool. Big old clustered group of units, perfect for Thors to annihilate with their beams. I was definitely being a little bit slow in the APM here. Not realizing that I was being crushed by a whole bunch of these Thors. EMP bomb as well. Are those spy bots? I think they're spy bots. Thor's very tough. Very difficult to deal with. There we go. Incinerator, not bad though. Doing some decent work. Blasting apart a whole bunch of units over here. Cage had been resurrected. At the very least, giving us a little buffer zone of commanders, right? Oh, he didn't even giving me the commander. Didn't even know about that. Marauders now sweeping across the map here, trying to figure out where on earth the last bastions are. I'm sure God Official is annoyed beyond all reason. The fact that I'm still alive. Still kicking over here. Trying to get up an advanced geothermal. Trying desperately, anyways. Mod X's commander moving on over in secret here. Those advanced exploiters pretty good though. They do burst down that commander real quick. Nicely done. Scorpion battery trying, but failing. Here are the nuclear bombers. Here to ruin the day. Sun sets on a desperate team. A team clinging to salvation. What a base trade. Managed to wipe out every single base, save for the last one in the very last corner over here. If it weren't for the aggressive push through the center over here in the collapsed northern, I don't know, I think this game could have gone differently, but alas, we did succumb to the forces of God Official here as the Razorbacks push across the map, the nuclear bombers pull us apart. Oh, what a fun match. A lot of people were requesting that I commentate this one, so I sure hope you enjoyed. I know I sure did. Getting to relive this match, what a treat here. These matches always tend to be really epic on this stream, and I sure hope you do get a chance to tune in for that as well. Again, one final reminder, Tuesdays and Saturdays rather, for anybody who wants to tune in, PDT of 12 o'clock. You're more than welcome to join in, and maybe you'll get to play in a fun game like this. But other than that, I hope you have a great rest of your day. I hope you enjoyed the cast, and I will see you in the next Beyond All Reason video. Peace out, folks.